Yes. Okay, everyone. So far, you study about conversation activities, how to write lesson plan for conversation activities. Then in last webinar, we talk about 4 language skills, listening and speaking, how to start, how to practice, and how to get the feedback. Today, continuing the 4 language skills, we're going to talk about reading and writing. Okay?
Okay.
Now, before starting, wait a minute. Oops. Guys, hold on a minute. Something happened. Any kinds of activity, but just remember, you have only few minutes because you need time to teach. 3, 4, or maybe 5 minutes. That's it. Now, where to start? Okay, fill in the blanks, please. There are 4 language skills. Come on, everyone.
Reading, listening, speaking,
writing,
and writing.
Listening and speaking.
Very good. Are productive skills. Which ones are productive skills?
Speaking and writing.
Speaking and writing.
Writing and speaking are productive skills. That means they involve language than receiving it.
Producing.
Producing.
Bravo. Language than receiving it. As listening and
Reading.
Reading.
Bravo. That's the main objectives of previous session. So it's a quick review with your students. So after warm up, you think, how can I, in a very involving, okay, or engaging activity, just review the main objective or terminal objectives of last sessions with my students, because you want to start the new lesson. So you just need to review the terminal objectives of last sessions to make your students ready to start the new ones. Okay? Good. So today, as I told you, we are going to talk about teaching reading, which is what a skill?
Receptive.
Receptive skill. Very good. Okay, guys, read these sentences. Then I ask you, do you think they're true or false? Just go over it. Then I'm going to ask you, what do you think? What's your idea?
Some are true, some are false.
Okay. So A, reading is like listening, except that the input is written, no, it's not spoken.
True.
It is partly true, but it's not as simple.
Okay. Well, what do you mean it's partly true?
You know, the mode of listening or writing a written text there is more differences, not just this difference. There are more differences because in written we have different kind of formal, informal, different kinds, and in listening we have different kind of accents, tones, and everything. And these are not included in this sentence. It's like simplified version, but it is true.
Oh, but it is true. Yeah, because you receive the knowledge. They're receptive. Thank you. B, comprehension means understanding all the words in a text.
No.
False.
No.
False.
Why it is false?
You can get the gist of the text if you understand enough words.
I think comprehension is being able to get the message behind the text.
Yeah, or we can guess the meaning of some of the words, although it's not exact meaning, but we can guess them and understand them.
Thank you. Sometimes you even watch a movie in your mother tongue and you don't get some of the words because it doesn't mean I don't mean you don't understand it. You just don't get it. The way of conversation or the noises and this thing, but still you understand what's happening, or what has happened. So it doesn't mean in every single words you need to hear or you need to understand, but still you get the message and you know what's going on. Okay, reading in classroom means reading aloud.
False.
False.
No.
Okay. Dave, you want to say something?
I don't, I think that's false.
Oh, okay.
I think it depends on the purpose of the reading. Like, why are they reading? They're reading to improve conversation and teach us to listen. If they're reading for enjoyment, then they'll probably read to themselves. So it all depends on the purpose of the reading.
Bravo. It depends on the purpose of the reading. That's true. For teaching purposes, text should be simplified.
This also depends on the level of the learners or the context and everything. For advanced learners, we don't simplify the text. We prefer sometimes the text to be authentic. But for beginner learners, of course, we simplify the text.
Bravo. It depends on the level of the students. Reading is a good way of improving vocabulary.
True. True.
Yeah, extensive
Yeah,
reading can help a lot.
Exactly. Any kinds of reading. Receptive knowledge, okay? Improve their vocabulary. The aim of classroom reading is the appreciation of literary text.
No, not in
No.
language
No. No.
classrooms.
What were the others? What do you think?
It could be both. It could be to appreciate text and also to learn. And again, it depends on what's the purpose of the reading, right?
Yeah, so what's the purpose of the course? Yes, but it could be true. Yeah. Thank you very much. Talking about, you remember last session when we were talking about listening, we talked about extensive and intensive reading and listening. So what do you think? Extensive reading and intensive reading, what's the difference?
Extensive reading means reading anything, everything that you just are interested in and you uh, enjoy it. But it helps a lot in learning language, in learning vocabulary and everything. But intensive reading is like what the teacher says to read, what is purposefully designed for the course, and we do it for learning, but it is like designed, not anything, not in our own choice.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the TESOL manual. That's intensive.
Exactly. Exactly. Dave, can you give me an example of extensive reading?
Extensive reading, anything that I'm reading for pleasure, whether it be just in a genre that I appreciate, like science fiction and fantasy, or maybe a newspaper, but it's something that I just am not going to pick apart or, read every line necessarily, but.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very good. So extensive reading is a kind of silent reading by individual students of long, interesting texts, such as stories or books, or maybe even newspaper or magazine that they enjoy reading it. So they read it for pleasure and their own speed. Some people read fast, but some people read slowly, or they need time to read a page, but some people can in few minutes read 3 pages or 4 pages. So it depends on their own speed. Intensive reading, as you mentioned, is a kind of silent reading which occurs when the learner is focused on the language rather than the text. They have to answer comprehension questions. They have to fill in the blanks. They need to learn new vocabulary, studying the grammar and expressions in the text. Okay. Why I mentioned silent reading?
Do you mean in contrast to loud reading or reading aloud?
Yes. Why I said silent reading?
I don't know exactly, but maybe vocalizing makes a difference.
Silent reading, I think you are just reading in your mind and you're just being silent and you're reading in your heart and mind.
Exactly. Think about yourself. Back to your experience. They ask you to read something loud in a conference. Then, just you finish, people ask about your ideas. So you go over it again to see what have you already read. If you want to comprehend anything, you need to read it silently.
It's
You
like
have a better concentration, better comprehension. So always give a chance to your students to read silently. They have time to think about it. They have time to focus better. They have time to remember the meaning of the words. But while they're reading aloud, they focus on their pronunciation, stress, intonation, how loud they are. So they cannot focus on the meaning at the same time. Okay? So that's why for reading part, we always give chance to our students to read it silently once. Okay? Good. Because people, you remember we said people who listen more can speak better. People who read more can write better. So sometimes depends on the level and the purpose of the class. We need to analyze the writing and layout. The reading and the layout, how it starts. What is the difference between the introduction part and main body? What discourse markers you can find in the text and how to use it in intensive reading purpose. Okay? So how to connect words, how to connect paragraphs, because the readings are a good sample for their writing. In extensive reading, depends on the level of your students and the purpose of the class. You can choose different reading, like communicative or academic reading. But whatever kind or any kind of reading you choose for your class, work on both top down and bottom up. Guys, tell me what's the difference between these two approaches, top down and bottom up? Top down approach and bottom up approach, what's the difference? We talk about it for the listening, different activities you can give to the students for the listening, two approaches. One goes to their, do you remember? You check their comprehension, yeah? You check their comprehension. The other part works on the language.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which one goes to the comprehension, top down or bottom
Top
up?
down.
Exactly,
The
top
bottom up
down.
works on the linguistic part.
Yes, linguistic part. Bravo. So even for intensive reading, you work on both. Once you ask your students to read it silently and check their comprehension. If your students can understand the text and the message in the text or the information in the text. Number two, as you're working on new vocabulary, structure, like discourse markers, differences between the paragraphs, kind of the reading. Is it academic reading or a communicative reading? Okay, so the linguistic part. Even in intensive reading purpose, maybe you ask some of your students to read some sentences or some paragraphs aloud. Why? You ask them to read out aloud to check their pronunciation. So it's not, the purpose is different. So do we ask our students to read some parts of their reading in the class aloud? Of course, because your purpose is to check their pronunciation and intonation. That's fine. But generally, for understanding, they need to have time to read it by themselves and silently. Are we going to ask them, all of them, to read the text? Of course not, because it takes a long time and it's very boring. Just imagine you have 7 students or 8 students. Each one wants to read it aloud. It takes about 20 minutes. So you lose your time and your students get bored. So it's better, for lower level, of course, it's better you ask your students to read some parts of it. So student A read 4 sentences. Now student C reads next paragraph, get back to student B to read another sentences. You can pick some students to read some parts of it. What else? Because we want to show them the good sample for their writing, as I said, analyze the text. So it's okay, which part is introduction? What is the introduction of the reading about? What can you understand from the first paragraph? What about the main body? What's the difference between the main body and the first paragraph? And the last paragraph? What's the difference between the conclusion paragraph and introduction paragraph? So they need to analyze. They need to, sometimes you need to explain. So they learn the sample. Later, you want to ask them to write something for you, write an essay or something. So they had the sample and already practice. Okay. But how to work on comprehension part? We have 2 skills. Let me tell you. We have 2 skills or 2 methods, I could say. Where did I put my slide? Scheming and scanning. So what's the difference between scheming and scanning? Before talking about that, do you have any ideas what's the difference between scheming and scanning?
If I'm not wrong, skimming is like just going through the text and checking some parts, like the first sentence of each paragraph, and checking them like to get the whole purpose of the text, what's going on in this text, but we don't read all of it. But in scanning, we like check some details. uh, we go through the text again, but we check some details. We are after, for example, specific words or specific verbs or a specific detail or information that are important to us. We leave the other parts, but like focus on these parts. So we scan those details and leave the other parts. But in skimming, we just want to know what's the whole purpose of the text and what's going on in this text as a whole.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you. So skimming means get the gist of the reading. So it's a technique to get the main idea from the passage or within a passage. So get the overall impression of the content of the reading. So you read a title and you understand this reading is about criminals. Then you read the first introduction and you understand, okay, it's talking about crimes in the different big cities around the world. Then for the rest, you only read the first sentence of other paragraphs. And you understand, so it's talking about crimes in Paris and Berlin, in Melbourne, and in Ottawa, for example. Mhm. Or you look at the pictures or bold words or underline words or phrases, and you understand what's it about. You get the message. Mhm. That is a scheming. So get the gist of the reading. But sometimes you ask your students to look for a specific answer, okay? For a specific answer. Like what year the text is talking about. Or what about the crimes? Is it commercial or house robberies or for cars? So specific questions. So they have to scan the text to find that specific information you ask them to. Okay, so that is a scanning. So they go look through it, looking for specific words, looking for the clues. Like when you ask for the date, they look for numbers. You ask for the name, they look for capital letters because names are in capital in all languages. Okay? Or they go through the headings to find which paragraphs talks about, for example, Paris, if the question refers to Paris. That is scanning. Now, let me ask you something. When you look up a word in a dictionary, is it a scanning or skimming?
Scanning.
Very good. When you browse the internet for the latest news stories, is it a scanning or skimming?
Skimming.
You're not going
Skimming.
to read, yeah, exactly.
I
Not
think again it's scanning.
okay. Are you going to read everything you find out line by line, or you just look at the headlines to find the latest news, and you look at the dates, not all the news, huh? You look at the dates and say,
April
oh, that's
1st.
for April 1st. So that's kind of skimming. Okay.
Mhm.
Choosing a book
Skimming?
from a library or bookshop.
It's scanning
Good.
because I've been looking for it's a specific book, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's scanning.
Specific part, a specific book, then you
Yeah.
go through it. You maybe even read the first page of each
Mhm.
book and to see, or the back cover to see what's it about.
Yeah.
Finding a particular news story in a newspaper.
Scanning.
Scanning.
The scanning, that's right. That's right. Finding the price of a product in a catalog
Scanning.
Scanning.
because you're searching for the price.
Mhm.
Looking through a magazine for an interesting article.
Skimming.
Skimming.
Yeah.
Skimming. Yeah.
So we need to teach our students what's the difference between skimming and scanning. Because when you ask them to read it and tell me what's the reading about, you want to give them time for silent reading. They start to read sentence by sentence, underline all the new words, look it up. So it takes long time. And so, no, no, no. I just want you to go through it very quickly, look at the pictures, look at the headings, and tell me what do you think it's about? Or what do you get from the text? So we need to teach them what's the difference between skimming and scanning. Now, how to teach intensive reading in the class. Number one, we always said when we want to teach any skills, we need to put our students in the context. Because when they are in the context, they can understand it better and we help them to concentrate better. And also we motivate them to read or motivate them to study. So we start with leading. Leading means put your students in the context or contextualization. You start to talk about the topic. You write the topic of the sentence on the word and say, what do you think about it? Can you guess what's the reading about? Okay, everyone, open your book to page 31. Look at the pictures. What do you get from the pictures? What are they trying to say? What are they about? Even you write the keyword on the board, crimes. Have you heard about crimes in your neighborhood, on the news, or in big cities? What crimes have you heard about? They start to talk. So you put them in the context. If there are some keywords, the words that if your students don't understand it, they don't get the message, the gist of the reading. So they need to know those words to understand it. Not completely, but 70%, 60% they can understand it. Those are keywords. So if there are keywords or key vocabulary in the text that you know your students don't know them, you need to pre-teach. So again, I emphasize, we never pre-teach all the new words because we want to give our students a chance for guessing. Guess the meaning. We only pre-teach the keywords to help them to understand the text. So we put the students in the context, brainstorming. Maybe you sometimes you use short videos. Okay, I want you to watch this short video and can you guess what's the topic of our next reading? You can be creative. Then pre-teach the keywords. Next, I want to give my students a chance for thinking time, silent reading, to go through the text by themselves, concentrate and understand what's it about, skimming, get the gist of the reading. But also, I want to help them to comprehend better. So I write 3 or 4 general comprehension questions. Then I ask them, okay, I want you to go through the text by yourself in 3 minutes or in 4 minutes, depends of the level of the students and how long is the reading. And tell me, what cities is the text talking about? And also the date, the year, and the kind of the crime. Very general comprehension questions. So they go through it, then they say, okay, it talks about Paris, Berlin, Montreal, and Melbourne, or Ottawa, whatever. Date was in 2020. Crime, bank robberies. So after 4 minutes, you ask them for the questions. Even if they say, oh, we still couldn't find the answer, you give them more time, but never give the answer yourself. You know what happened? If your students know you're going to give them the answer, they won't try. So it's okay. Oh, you couldn't find the answer for question 3. You have 2 more minutes. Still they cannot? Okay, let's do it in pairs. You put them in pairs, help your friend to find the answer. So they understand they need to try hard to find the answer. What's next? So they are in the context, they know the keywords, and they go through the text and they get the gist of the reading. Now it's the time for bottom-up activities. I need to work on all new vocabulary. I need to work on the structure. I need to work on their pronunciation, intonation, how they read it, how to pronounce the sentences. Maybe there are new phrasal verbs, idioms, or new linguistic parts in the text. It's a time to go through it. So you ask some of your students to read aloud, you listen to them, you ask them about the words. First, let them guess. If they cannot, you have to teach them the new words, give them some examples, teach them how to use these words in a text, are the formal or informal, academic or no, just general words. These kind of activities, and like fill in the blanks, complete the sentences, answer to detailed questions, true, false, true, false sentences, decide whether these sentences are true or false. So they have to scan it. It's a time for scanning. They have to scan it to find the answers. And they answer to detailed questions. So they have to study line by line. What's next? So you work on the text and you check with your students. Post-reading activities. It's a time to get the feedback. So your students, maybe they give you a summary if they're higher levels, or they say about their feelings. Did they like the text? Which part do you like most? You don't like it? What do you think about it? How is it similar to your own experience or to your neighborhood? So they start to talk about the text. But when they talk about the text, there's a difference between post-reading activities and pre-reading activities. In pre-reading activities, they use their previous knowledge and vocabulary structure, everything. In post-reading activity, they use what they have learned in that session. So when they talk about the text, they have to use the new words. They have to use the structure. They have to use the phrasal verbs they learn, because you are getting feedback. You reflect on the text, how well your students learn. So that's the difference. Okay? So talking about pre-task activity, while task activity, post-task activities. In pre-task, put them in the context, pre-teach the keywords, give them time for skimming, and check their general comprehension of the text. While task, you go through the details, you teach the words, structure, everything. Detailed questions, put your students in pairs, put your students in groups, let them talk about the text, let them do the activities together, you monitor, listen to them. Post, reflection, and getting feedback. And definitely relevant homework. So you assign, here is another text, which is very similar to the one that they have already studied in the class. Okay, this is for home. I want you to answer to the questions, do the activities, and next time come to the class for 2 minutes, talk about it. So they have time to do the activity at home. Okay? Any questions? Do you have any questions, guys?
No, it's clear. Thank you.
I was just
Oh.
thinking about if you did give them homework and you wanted them to bring that homework next class, would you ask them to then discuss what they had done as homework and the thing? So each student would get a couple of minutes and that would soak up some of the lesson.
Randomly, because you don't have enough time.
Right.
Yeah, so randomly you ask them. But even if you think, no, I need to get I need to assess all my students or just check with all. So you ask them to write a paragraph and email it to you
That would
instead
be
of
good. Yeah,
talking.
I like
So
that.
they write a short paragraph and email it. So you can assess all.
I like
Okay?
it.
Thank you. What about extensive reading? For lower level, actually, you need to find readings for them because when they Google, they're all difficult. So you need to find simplified reading and share with your students. Extensive reading definitely happens out of the class, not inside the class, because they need time and they really depends on their speed of reading. It's good to sign some of the students. Okay, I want everybody choose one of the readings that you like or storybooks that you can find somewhere that you upload for them. And for next time, I want Tom and Lucia talk about the reading. The other time, for example, Alicia and Ali talks about the other readings. As your friend said, you don't have time in the class to ask each one. It depends on the number of the students. If they're 2 or 3, that's fine. But just imagine if there are 8 or 10. It's really time consuming. But still, you want everybody read at home, because if they have more exposure to the language, they understand it better. I myself, sometimes I ask them to talk because I want to check their fluency, speed of talking, and accuracy, but I always ask them to write. So just write 3 sentences, a paragraph, or maybe sometimes an essay. It depends on the level of the class, about the reading. Talk about your understanding, or write about your understanding, write about your feeling, write about your experience. What do you think about the writer? Can you analyze the reading? Okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the topic? So it depends to the level of the class and knowledge of your students. You can give them writing activity. And when everybody email this to you, so you can assess all the students. But my point is, extensive reading, of course, is pleasure reading and for enjoy and they love it. But you need to get feedback. Because they are in a process of learning the language, not only enjoying it. They have a chance to choose, but still you get the feedback and see how much they need help to understand it better or to use it while they are talking or writing. So as we said, when you ask them to write, which we are going to talk about it in writing skills, sometimes it's only important for you to check their comprehension. So you just go through it and you focus on the meaning of what they are talking or what they are writing. But sometimes it's also important how correctly they've written. So in that case, you need to teach them the different methods of writing, academic writing, how to write a text or notes or essay, how to start a paragraph, how to develop a paragraph. What's the difference between different paragraphs in the reading? What's the difference between introduction and conclusion? Or what are the characteristics of good main bodies? Okay, so if you want to ask them to write something for you, you need to teach them how to write. If they are not at the level of writing, just ask them to write some sentences. Ask them to write some sentences. I want you to write 5 sentences for the text. You can give them WH question. What do you like about it? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? What's your experience? And do you like to read more reading like that? Yes or no? Yes, why, no, why? This kind of question. So they only answer to the questions. Okay, here is the sample of reading, which is different from the reading that we were talking about. When we talk about, usually reading starts with the introduction, main body, and conclusion at the end. But look here, there are different paragraphs, but the paragraphs are not truly related. So here is said, what does your hairstyle mean? There are different hairstyles around the world. Then it talks about different hairstyles in different countries or different time, like in Egypt, in Japan, in Africa, and in Europe. Another method that you can use for teaching reading is jigsaw reading. What is jigsaw reading is, since this reading the paragraphs, they are under one topic, but you don't need to read the whole reading to understand each paragraph. You know what I'm saying? Do I make sense? It means when you know it's about hairstyles, so when you read about Egypt, it's not truly related to Japan. So there are separate paragraphs under one topic. When the reading is like this, the method could be jigsaw reading. What is jigsaw reading is, you put your students in groups. So you have 4 paragraphs. Each paragraph consists of 4 people. Okay? You make groups of 4 students because there are only 4 paragraphs. Give them time for scheming. Okay? You have 4 minutes. Scheme the dialogue and answer to these 3 general comprehension questions. So together they go through the whole passage. And they say, okay, it's about a hairstyle in Japan, in Egypt, Europe, and Africa. Very good. Thank you. Now, group 1, student A, B, C, D. I want students A's of each group. Make another group, expert group, and only read paragraph A. So A's from each group comes together and read paragraph A. Student B in each group, they go together, study paragraph B. Student C, study paragraph C, and student D, study paragraph D. So you put them in expert groups. So student A only discuss paragraph A. They go through the new vocabulary, they study the structure, they think about the method of their writing in that paragraph, how formal it is, how the words get kind of discourse markers, linking words, the tense of the verbs. So they focus on it with the help of the teacher. You monitor the group and ask them some questions, give them hints, help them to understand it. So they have a few minutes to study that paragraph in their expert groups. After 5 minutes, they say, okay, get back to your first group, your own group. So A, B, C, D again. Now, student A, I want you to explain what you have already done or you study in your expert group to the rest. So student A, talk about paragraph 1, talk about the words, talk about the reading format or the writing format. What they study in their expert group. Student B talks about paragraph B, student C talks about paragraph C, and student D talks about paragraph D to the group. That is jigsaw reading. So what's good about it? You involve your students a lot. And your student learns how to use the language because they are going to explain it to the other people in the group. So you help them to understand and learn better. Jigsaw reading. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now here, top-down or bottom-up activity. Do you think male and female brains are different? What are the stereotypes of men and women in your country? Okay, do you think it's top-down activity or bottom-up activity? What approach is it?
Top down.
Exactly. Why? Why, Dave, you say top-down?
I guess you're just asking them to, you're not asking them specific things or to explain or to understand specific words. You're asking them to digest the text and provide a more comprehensive answer.
Thank you. Exactly. What about this one? Read the news report again. Find example for quotes used to give someone's opinion a concluding statement, an introductory statement.
Bottom up.
What is it?
It's a bottom up activity.
Yes, is it top-down approach or bottom-up approach?
Bottom up.
Exactly. Exactly. Because they need to scan for specific sentence, how to start the introduction, how to start the conclusion. What kinds of words do you use? What kinds of phrases do you use?
I
So
didn't
you work on
understand. I didn't understand her answer. It was garbled to me. Was it top? Did you say top down or bottom up?
bottom up.
Bottom up.
Because
Okay,
you
thank you.
work on the linguistic part, okay? How to start your introduction. What is the topic sentence? What is the characteristics of the topic sentence or supporting sentences? So I mean, your students need to scan and find it. It's not just for comprehension. So that's bottom up. Here, you focus on the style of writing and they need to learn, okay? What is an introductory statement? What are supporting statements? How to write? How to use a linker, linking verbs or linking words? Okay, so that goes to bottom up. So again, just to wrap it up for reading, pre, while, and post. You know, in your lesson plan, in a part of process, okay? When you want to write your lesson plan, you get to process. You have to write 3 stages: pre, while, post. For pre stage, you explain how to put your students in the context and what words you pre-teach to help them to understand. Then you ask them to skim and answer to general comprehension questions. And while you put them in groups, in pairs to study, guess the meaning of the other new words, answer to detailed questions, complete the sentences, decide the sentences are true or false. So more challenging, more detailed, and more complicating questions. And you give them time. The role of the teacher, monitor each group and give prompts, help, and solve their problem. After a while, so it could be different. Here I put different kinds of activities: true, false, multiple choice, short answer questions, matching, guessing the meaning, highlighting the grammar, even reading aloud to check their pronunciation and intonation. What's last? Post stage. How to get the feedback. Maybe one of the students interview the others about the text. Maybe they role play. It depends on the reading. Maybe you have another debate or discussion about the topic, but your student needs to learn what they have learned from the text, the vocabulary, the expressions, the structures, anything that they learn in that session. But when it's a time to get the feedback, you need to check that they use it and they become, that knowledge become active knowledge for them. Done? There are challenges in teaching reading. Sometimes they don't understand the topic. The topic is really strange to them. Some these days they don't like to read. Reading habit is also another challenge. Or the words are very difficult. So the student have no ideas. But of course, there are solutions. Before coming to that session, you know, the topic is very odd to your students. So you can find something easier and share with your students before coming to that session. Or you can send them a very short video, Google and find a very short video related to the topic and send it to your students. So they have ideas. When they get to the class, they have ideas and they can share or they are prepared to talk about the topic. If there are many difficult words, but you have to teach this text, you can send the meaning of the words before coming to the class and say, I want you to go through these words and look at the meanings. Mhm. So you prepare your students before the session. And reading habit, extensive reading helps a lot, like choosing good storybooks and give them chance. Give them chance for different genres, depends on their interests. We never ask of all the students need to read this book. No. So you give them 3 different topics or different genres of storybooks because the level is important, you know? These books, Oxford graded readers, it is I mean they start from elementary to advanced. So in elementary there are 25 different storybooks. So between these 25 topics, depends on the genre that you like, choose one for the whole term. And then each time that we have the reading session, I want you to come and talk about the character, what happened, and tell the students why do you like this book, what's interesting about the story, so that you ask your students to talk about it. But the point is you give them chance for choosing, depends on their interests. Even you can start with talking about the cover, or do you think you ask them some question, is this going to be sad story, happy story, or hard story? Can you guess? So maybe some of your students say, okay, I'm gonna read it and let you know. Thank you. Thank you. So you encourage them to read. Mhm. But these days people usually don't like to read. They mostly they like to hear audio. They go for audiobooks. Okay, any questions for reading part? Do you have any questions for the reading? How to teach reading?
I do have one. So this type of lesson plan is like task-based teaching code, right? So
Yes.
pre-task and okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it has to be task-based.
Yeah, of course. Of
Okay.
course.
Thank you.
Sure. Maybe you use the different methods, but you put it in different 3 stages: pre-task, while task, and post-task. What you do to prepare your students for the lesson, how do you practice with your lesson, and how do you get the feedback? So the method that you use, it depends on you and the aim of the class and the purpose of your students, of their learning, the aim of their learning. But in 3 stages. Is that clear? Do I make sense?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. Good. Now, what about writing? There are different types of writing. Can you tell me about what are types of writing? Name some types of.
Argumentative writing,
Mhm.
persuasive, to persuade
Writing.
someone. Yeah.
Mhm. What else?
Narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Like stories. Okay. Copying, gap filling,
Reflective.
reordering words, substitution, guided writing, creative writing, essay writing, postcards, letter writing, emails, invitations, messages, even doing exercise, answering to the questions. They're all writing activities, yes? Because they write. Mhm. And you have to teach them how to write. So you have to teach them spelling, forming letters, writing legibly, punctuations, punctuating correctly, correct layouts, choosing right vocabulary. Is it formal, informal, narrative, academic? Grammar, using grammar correctly, joining sentences correctly, using paragraphs correctly. Okay? So these are sub-skills for writing. Depends on the level. Maybe in lower levels, your focus is on spelling. What is introduction paragraph, main paragraph, conclusion paragraph? Then more complex and complicated sentences. How to join the sentences, how to make longer sentences. Then you talk about the register, formal, informal, academic, report, different kinds, research. Depends on the level. Sometimes you ask them to write what they think about. Self-writing, real writing. They listen to the news, and or they listen to discussion and write their ideas using special words, and use those words in a paragraph, or use special structure in the paragraph. Personal writing, technical writing, academic writing, intensive and controlled writing. So there are different activities you can make for your students. For example, this one, it's copying. So this is good. This goes for beginners. That in English or in all languages, there's a space between the words. Words shouldn't stick together, so you cannot read them. So I space, want space, to space. And how to write capital letters or lowercase letters. We always look at the yellow lines in English, and actually in all languages, we start a sentence with capital letters. What else? Look at this activity, the yellow ones on the right. So what else you can practice? One is use capital letters to start. What else?
Punctuation.
Exactly. I went to my friend's place yesterday. Her name is Kimmy, and she's very nice. Period. What else? I'm sorry. I cannot understand it. I'm sorry. It's not very clear.
I can't
okay.
really understand it.
Okay. And also the names in English and in many languages in capital. Names are in capital. Like Kimmy or Emmy should start with capital letters. Here, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of this activity?
To actually put in the spaces and also punctuation marks and capital letters.
Exactly. What about this one?
Well, it's word comprehension, spelling, if you can unscramble the word.
Exactly. Exactly. Spelling and comprehension. Like the first one is, you know this. The first one is, what's the first word?
Rabbit.
Rabbit. So they can understand it. And you work on their spelling, elephant, snake, or monkey. This one. They need to comprehend the skimming. They need to comprehend the text and put the verbs in correct tense and correct conjunctions. So you works how to use correct tense for the verb and how to connect sentences. This one, you give them hint to think and you help them with the words. Then you ask them to write a paragraph. So they have the idea, they have the picture, so they know what to write. Oh, I need to write about this picture, and I have to write 5 sentences about it. So you help them. Because many times, which is very often, when you give them a topic, they say, I don't know what to write. But with pictures, you help them. And then also you give them the words. So it make it easier. On the other hand, you want to see if they can use these words correctly in a sentence. Mhm. But this is more challenging. I want you to write a story about this picture. It happened last weekend. It happens every Saturdays. Mhm. Even you can make it more difficult. Write the stories. I want you to use conditional sentences, if clause. So they have to use if clause to write the story. So you're practicing their structure as well. You can make it fun. Okay, you have 3 minutes. Draw something for your friend. Anything. I'm not very good in drawing. So I just draw something in 3 minutes. Good. Now share it with the because it's online. You can answer everybody send it to me, and then you share it with the other students, or you can send it to your friend. So you sign, like Dave, you send it to Aisha, Nicola, you send to Fresh. Okay, good. You have your friend's drawing. I want you to write a paragraph about that drawing. The first paragraph explain. The second paragraph write about your feeling. How do you feel when your friend draw this for you? That's motivating writing, free writing. For higher levels, make it more complicated. How was your last vacation? But they write 3 sentences and say, I went there and I had fun. Finish. I went somewhere, we stayed at a hotel and we had fun. But you want to motivate them to write more. So give them topic. Last vacation, I want you to write about the place, explain the place, time, how long we were there, and when did you leave your house? When did you get there? Who did you go with? The quality. Even you can talk about the quality of the place you stay in and climate. How was the first day, second day, and third day? How was the weather in general? So you give them topic. They will write longer, and you help them to think. What do I have in my favorite room? I sometimes ask my students, when you write about your favorite room in the house, send the picture as well. Some of them like it and they send, some they say no, some draw. So maybe my favorite room is not my bedroom, it's my kitchen. So that's the thing, give them chance. Give them chance to choose. Write about your favorite park, favorite place that you go for walking, um, favorite coffee shop, your favorite Tim Hortons. Yeah, which is very popular in, Canadian love Tim Hortons. So they can write about the place. You want them to use there is and there are, for example, or you want them to use correct adjectives. You want them to use more complicated sentences, joining sentences. So put it under the topic that they like, and that's their choice. For academic writing, there's a process. If you want them to write an essay, if you write them to write something more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, you have to give them time for 30 or 40 minutes. So you don't have that much time in the class. So it's good to teach them how to write, then give them a chance to write at home for the next session. But the steps are important. So when you want to teach them academic writing, pre, while, post. Pre, brainstorming about the topic. Brainstorm about the topic. So when you see the topic, put all your ideas on the paper. Okay? Yes, yeah, I'm recording this. I do understand it. Yeah. I know in some countries you have internet connection problems. I know that. So maybe later you can watch the rest of the class, the video actually for the rest of the class. Thank you for trying. Sure. Thank you for trying, Kira. Okay. So you ask them to write all the ideas in a paper. You can even say, okay, you can even consult with your classmate or with your friend. After that, I ask you to write only for 150 words. You're not going to write 5 pages. So you go through all the ideas and cross out the ones which are not very related to the topic. So give yourself a chance to go through all your ideas which are on the paper, and cross out the ones which are not very related, okay? Very related to the topic. Next, think how to start and how to develop your idea. So think about the introduction paragraph. In introduction paragraph, you need to tell or you need to write about the topic and what is the rest of the writing about. What's your idea about the topic? In very general sentence. So when I read the introduction, I understand what is this writing about. And in main paragraphs, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs in main part, you need to explain the points, the aspects that you want to share your idea with the others. Like you want to talk about advantages, disadvantages. So one paragraph talk about advantages, one paragraph talk about disadvantages. You want to talk about what happened. One paragraph talk about the background of your stories and starting the events. The next paragraph talk about the actions or the event. And then you need to teach your students how to connect the sentences, how to connect the paragraphs, cohesive devices. When you want to give them more information, you have to say in addition, for example, also. But contrast ideas. On the other hand, nevertheless, so how to use these cohesive devices. When you want to talk about the result, therefore, as a result. What about the last paragraph? Conclusion. So recap. You want to close the text. How to start? And then you mention the main points in another words again and close your writing. You already discussed this in the reading session. They had the sample. Now it's the time to produce. So they need time to think. That is why I said it's very time consuming if you want to ask them to write it in the class. It takes about 40 minutes. If you ask them to write one paragraph, it's fine. It takes 7 to 10 minutes and you can wrap it up. But writing an essay, it's really time consuming. Maybe the purpose of your class or the course is writing. So you ask your students to write in the class. But otherwise, ask them to do at home. So again, the stages: pre, while, post. How to put your students in the context to think about the topic, brainstorming, arrange their ideas or analyze the ideas, then pre-writing, first draft writing, go through it, correct it, look at the structure parts. Maybe they share it with another classmate and they assess or they go through it and give them comments to their friends. That after that, final draft. But when these are the different, okay, let me show you this, then I go to that. When they hand it to the teacher, we want to give them time or we want to give them chance to correct themselves. Because if I have a chance to study and correct myself, I will remember it better. So how? Give them correction codes. Don't write the correction parts for them. Underline and say wrong word, WW. Spelling mistakes, SP. Wrong punctuation, P. Wrong preposition, prep. I don't understand this sentence, question mark. Okay, give them codes. Wrong tense, T. And say, okay, now I want you to look at my codes and correct your writing for next session. So in this way, you help your student to study, to reflect on their own, on their own job, on their own writing, on their own work. So for sure, they will learn it better. But how? By giving them correction codes. But the codes should, they should understand the codes. You need to explain. So wherever I write WW, it means wrong word. When you see WT means right tense, right time. When you see question mark, means the sentence is not clear. So I want you to write it again. So your student go through the codes, rewrite the writing, and hand it for the next session. So learning how to write, it's a longer process because it's more complicated and difficult. Is that clear, everyone? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I agree with you that writing is really difficult. Sometimes I have students who speak very well, but when it comes to writing, they just can't write. Yeah.
Even in your mother tongue, it's very difficult to write sometimes, especially academic writing. You're right. So it's difficult for students as well. Here I have more examples for writing, like picture group writing. You can give them a picture, a big picture, and say, okay, I want you to write an essay about this. I want you to write a paragraph about this shopping mall. Do you know where's this Sea Aquarium? In which shopping mall it is?
Biggest shopping mall in the world. Is that either Edmonton or in Mall America in Minnesota somewhere?
No, it's in Dubai.
In
The big
Dubai?
shopping mall? Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Not even close.
But that's wow, it's awesome. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe it if I didn't see it by my own eyes. Yeah. So that's it. Or maybe you find another picture in different parts of the world. Creative story. Do you remember that that first it was a cartoon, then there was a short movie, Escape from the Zoo? No ideas? There was an elephant, a zebra, a hippo, and a lion.
Madagascar.
Oh yeah. That was my favorite. Yeah. I love that cartoon. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was very funny.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Very
So
creative.
Yeah,
Very creative.
very. So tell the story about escaping from the zoo. So they write it. They write the story of the picture. Even I was observing in one of the teachers And she said, okay, I want you to write another story for Cinderella. Everybody knows the story of Cinderella, but with different ending. Okay. So, and in your story, she's not going to marry the prince. That's very creative too. So, and then students get very excited. So just find something interesting and motivating for your students. Okay, guys, here's, if you are looking for examples or worksheets for reading, Pinterest, and it's free. You can find very good worksheets and Pinterest and topics for writing for different levels. Now, for your lesson plan. So again, you think about the session. What is the title of that session? So reading, writing, listening, and speaking all go around one title. That's about crime. That's about nature. That's about shopping. So what's the title of the session? Number of your students, level of your students, average age of students, teenagers, children, or adults, middle-aged, elderly, students, professions, and interests, college students, retired, housewives, working fathers, business owners. So why it is important? Because it helps you to choose the better topic for your activities. Students' first language, is it English, Spanish, Arabic, Persian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, or cultural background? Time, how long is it? This lesson plan is for 30 minutes, for 2 hours, for 90 minutes, for how long? And where? Environment of practice. Is it in the institute, in school, online, private institute? Is it private class? What material you need? And you have to attach all the material. Video, so attach video links, or the video, attach it to your email when you want to send your lesson plan to TESOL. Worksheets, homeworks, the text, audios, everything you have to mention it here and then attach. Zip it and attach it in one folder to your email, to the email. Introduction. How do you start your class? Think about nice warm-up. Terminal objectives. What is the aim of this session? My students will be able to what? At the end of the session, what will they learn? My students will be able to discuss the reading and write a paragraph about this topic and talk about their experiences on this topic. So what is the terminal objective? Enabling objective. So I'm going to teach these new words. I'm going to review this structure. I'll work on their pronunciation and structure. I review discourse markers for their writing. So you mention it, what you are going to teach to get to that terminal objectives. Then it's a process, pre, while, post. Pre-activities, while activities, post-activities. How you put your students in the context, how you practice with your students, and how you get the feedback. And as I said, appendix go to the worksheet, quizzes, how to assist your students. What about the homework you give to your students? You mentioned over there in that part, and assignments, and attach it to your email. Don't forget to write your name, candidate's name, and the date. Okay, guys, any questions?
I have a couple of general questions that I just jotted down as you were speaking.